Karl Rove's with us now. Karl, good morning to you. Remember that Axelrod was pretty critical 2 weeks ago when those battleground states came out. All that polling showing Trump leading in, I think, 5 of the 6. But Axelrod's not alone, all right? So you get Jonathan Martin, Politico. As one shrewd Democrat argued, he writes, the party enters 2024 with advantages on message, money, organization, and brand. The problem is the messenger. He can and should try to fix that. What would be your message to Martin and to Axelrod and to Biden?
Well, look, I agree with David Axelrod. When you have over 7 out of every 10 Americans saying that he's too old, including 69% of Democrats, and when you have nearly 2/3 of the country saying that that Joe Biden lacks the stamina and mental acuity to be effective as president, you got a real problem. Now, I do have a minor disagreement with David Axelrod. David suggests that the answer is to get going. That is to say, to duplicate what Barack Obama did to Mitt Romney starting in 2012, and that was to start going after Mitt Romney, painting him as a heartless plutocrat who had a elevator in his garage in La Jolla for his cars. And I mean, they were unending, starting in the early part of 2012, going after Mitt Romney. Now that was effective. It took bad numbers for Barack Obama in 2011 and turned it into victory in November of 2012. My disagreement is that Barack Obama was young, effective. He could string together 2 sentences. Everybody looked at him and said, he's not too old, he's young and energetic, and he had political skills that were far better than Joe Biden's today. Joe Biden is not going to get younger, and he's not going to be more fluent, and he's not going to look like a strong leader. And as a result, I think going on the offense, getting going, as David says, nice try, but I'm not certain that's going to work when the messenger is so flawed as Joe Biden is in this situation. So remember, in that poll that showed the battleground states Biden losing to Trump in 5 of 6 battleground states, it also showed a generic Democrat, an unnamed Democrat, handily beating Donald Trump in all 6 of those states.
Hey, Karl, since you know both men, I want to ask you about Jim Messina, who worked with Axelrod on those races for Barack Obama. Jim Messina said he's not worried at all, that he thinks David Axelrod is 1,000% wrong. He thinks that Joe Biden's record of accomplishment is great, that they have work to do, but that when it comes down to it, America will choose to reelect Joe Biden. So between those two, they're diametrically opposed. Which one do you think is more correct?
Well, first of all, let me damage both of their reputations. Both men are personal friends of mine. Right. But choosing between Messina and Axelrod, I'd go with Axelrod on they have a real problem, and talking past it is not going to help. There is a real fundamental problem. I'd have to hear, what are they going to do to make him look more energetic? What are they going to do to make Joe Biden look more able, more on top of it? What are they going to do to show that he has the stamina and mental acuity to be president of the United States when we face huge challenges abroad and at home? And I don't see the answers to that give me any confidence they can overcome it. They may say, look, we go thermonuclear against Donald Trump and we'll be able to persevere and win. Maybe they will, but it's going to give us the ugliest presidential campaign in history, because you can bet it's going to be met with like response by Donald Trump, and we are likely to see turnout decline next year. We've been in a period since 1996 where, with a brief hiccup in 2012, turnout has been rising election after election, and I think that's likely to go down if these 2 men are the nominees of their party and they both take this take no prisoners, DEFCON 3 approach to American politics.
So he's going to campaign for the Rose Garden in 2020. He campaigned from his basement, and that worked that time. On the Republican side, Tim Scott is out as of 36 hours ago. The DeSantis team right now, 2 and 3 guys, sending 3 top aides to Iowa. He's going to get to all 99 counties this fall. Going to make a big deal out of that. And then you've got the recent polling in Iowa. Trump at 43, Haley and DeSantis are tied at 16 apiece. The caucus happens on January 15th, Karl. Maybe that scrambles everything. But do you think Scott getting out, do you give an edge to a DeSantis or a Haley right now as they battle for what appears to be a silver medal?
Well, the polling suggests that the second choice of Tim Scott's supporters is Nikki Haley, but given the fact that he was polling in low digits in both Iowa, New Hampshire, and nationwide. It's not much of a boost coming from that. But let me suggest something else. We have evidence that she has moved because of the debates. And the third debate, I think everybody agreed she did really well, in large part because Vivek Ramaswamy kept coming after her in completely illogical and inappropriate ways and giving her a great chance to counterpunch. In politics, a punch hurts sometimes, but a counterpunch can work far more effectively most times, and she took advantage of it. She was at 6 points in the Iowa poll in August. By the beginning of October, she was tied at 16 with DeSantis, who declined from 19 to 16 over that same period. My sense is that she's probably a few points ahead of him today. The question is going to be, Donald Trump was flat in the Iowa poll, 42 in August, 43 in October. And not only that, but 29 of his 43 points said, my mind is made up, I'm voting for him. But 14 points of Donald Trump's support in Iowa said, I'm for him today, but I'm open to voting for others. So we got plenty of time yet for weird things to happen in Iowa, and they tend to happen there, and then they tend to be followed by even stranger things in the state of New Hampshire.
That's a fact. Thank you, Karl.
Karl's reliving his past.
Oh, I'm reliving 19 points. Yes.
New Hampshire.
John
Indeed.
McCain.
Look it up,
yeah,
young
New
people.
Hampshire.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Karl.
Yes.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.